Finding yourself extra triggered lately? Want to learn how to become untriggerable? Stick around, because I got something for you. Insert cheesy placeholder intro video here, because y'all know I ain't got one yet. Now, if you've been on my page for the last couple of days, you'll know that I did a couple of think pieces on the whole Meg and Nikki situation, right? I talked about the fact that people who show up in that way often are allow themselves to be triggered. And then when you're triggered, it's hard to really show up as your best self. So that's what I believe happened there. And I got some comments from some people who are dealing with being triggered and wanted some advice on how not to be triggered. And so I was literally just finishing corporate training session with the client where we were talking about some of those things. And so I jotted down some notes and I thought I'd share them with you all in case there's some of you who would like to know how to begin to release the spirit of offense. Now, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Rhonda Gipson-Willis. I am an executive coach. I'm a corporate trainer. I'm a speaker. I'm a licensed therapist. I am a life coach. I'm a breakthrough coach. And so I'm getting in my corporate training bag right now. So we're going to talk about releasing offense, because some of you are walking around and y'all just itching for a fight. You just ready for somebody to say something for you so you can snap, right? And recognizing that in that snapping, you're not putting yourself in your best position, right? We'll say that. You're not showing yourself to be as couth as you should be, or maybe that you want to be. And for some of you, it's on brand to be a hothead and go off. But some of us prefer not to be so easily triggered. In the videos, I mentioned that if you're easily triggered, you are easily manipulated. If you're easily offended, so how do we go about releasing the offense? How do you go about releasing the offense when someone has done that thing, or they said that thing, or they, right? And so here's the thing I want to put out as a caveat. This is not going to be a long video. It's going to be enough to give you enough to consider and work with and think about. But it is what has helped me and what I do use with my clients who struggle with offense, being offended, and carrying the spirit of offense. The thing about the spirit of offense is that when you are easily offended, that means that you are viewing the life through the lens of offense. You're looking for somebody to mess with you. You're looking for somebody to say the wrong thing, to look at you the wrong way if you are easily offended. Now, that doesn't mean that people aren't out there doing things that are offensive. But it also means that just because you're offended, it doesn't mean that other people are offensive. Just because you're offended, it doesn't mean that everybody is offensive. So I want us to really look at that when you talk about releasing offense, when you talk about becoming untriggerable, you have to check yourself. Now, I'm an old lady, so I say some things like check yourself or you wreck yourself. I remember Daz Effect said it, and I remember Ice Cube said it. So I was jamming to both of them back in the day. But if you are not willing to check yourself, like, why is it so easy for people to trigger me? Why am I going out in this world, and why is it that it doesn't take much to knock me off my square? And if you've not investigated with yourself to see what that is, like, why is it that I'm jumping off like this? You need to check the trigger. Like, what's the trigger? What's the thing that when they do it, it triggers that thing in you and causes you to move in that way? You've got to explore why it offended you. Is it the topic? Is it the person? Is it that you are extremely sensitive about something? Is it that you've chosen principle over peace? Now, I could talk for a while about choosing principle over peace and why sometimes that will make you look like a punk in these streets if you choose principle over peace. For those of you who may or may not follow my story on any of my platforms, I am a woman who has, I say recently, but it's been a year and a half at this point now. Recently divorced, but I was with my ex-husband. We were together almost 30 years. And part of what I had to reconcile to help me on my healing journey was that there will be times that I would have to choose peace over principle. Choosing peace over principle allowed me to not die on heels that didn't mean shit. And there are too many of us who are dying on heels that, in the grand scheme of things, it's just a matter of principle. And I understand we should all have our principles, but we should also have our boundaries. We should also protect our peace. And here's the thing I'll say about peace: once you have peace, once you've acquired peace, you will become a protector of your peace. And sometimes being a protector of your peace means you let some shit slide. It means that not everything is going to be a fight, because sometimes it's just not worth what you have to give up in exchange for it. So, does that mean that sometimes, as a person who decides that they're not going to be triggered or triggerable, right? And again, I'm going to lead with the caveat of that doesn't mean that I'm always going to be like, oh, yeah, I could give me all you got. No, because there's probably something that will trigger me. But there's going to be very few things that someone could say to me that trigger me, to allow me, that allow me to have the type of meltdown that we've seen recently, right? And part of that is, again, you got to choose peace over principle. And then you have to look at the trigger. Is this something, if the trigger is true, right? If the trigger is true, if the thing that they've said about you is true, you have two choices. Well, I guess you have three. You can debate it. You can get upset about it. You can accept it, like, okay, it's my truth. Or you can change what you don't like about it. Release the trigger. You don't have to be bound by your past. You don't have to be bound about who you were yesterday. You can literally decide to change your life today. And if you release the version of yourself that you were, that you're carrying with maybe shame, guilt, or regret, or whatever it is that may allow people to push that button in you, if you release that, when they come to you and they try to push that trigger, you can say, you know what, it no longer exists. She doesn't exist anymore because I'm evolving into this other version of myself. And then there are people who will say, well, you're not taking responsibility. No, you could take responsibility. You could take responsibility for your shit and still evolve. The thing about the trigger is, if you are still holding on to some semblance of emotion or guilt behind what that thing is that the person has said, that they picked that, then yeah, you probably gonna be popping off, because now you feel the need to defend something that maybe you should just accept. Okay, yeah, that is how I am, or that is what happened. And if you don't like what you've had to accept, you can still change it. That doesn't mean you can erase the consequences. That doesn't mean you can erase the impact of what happened. But that does mean that you can strive to become a different person who is not held bound by that decision or who you've been or who you've become, right? It's important that in this area, as we are doing the work, right? That's the other part. Like, if you're not willing to do the work, as you identify what those triggers are, you have to be willing to do the work. And part of that means you have to be willing to give yourself some grace. Offer yourself grace, offer yourself forgiveness, hold yourself accountable. That way, when somebody's coming to you, you can say, you know what, you're right. You're right. But this is my new reality. You're right. But this is what I'm working on instead. You know what? That thing that you said, it was right then. But I'm striving to become a different me. That's how you release the triggers. That's how you not allow yourself to be controlled by the utterances of others. That's how you do that. I mean, obviously, there's a lot more to it, but that's a great place to start. So those are 3 steps if you want to be untriggerable as you navigate the rest of your life. Because maybe you didn't have those skills before to keep you out of certain situations, but there's nothing stopping you from developing those skills. So with that said, I hope that was helpful for somebody. I saw some comments, and I'll be going back through the comments and addressing some other things If there's anything else you guys would like for me to talk about, I'll be more than happy to. And thank you guys for showing up, and I'll see you next time, which may be later today. All right, y'all. Bye. Thanks for watching, and if you want more content like that, be sure to subscribe.